Hello. So recently, I found myself in this situation. I've been working hard on projects, really putting in the effort, putting in the hours, and expecting to see some sort of result, something that comes back to me. And I've been faithful, I've prayed about it, I've spent time with God, I've stuck to my rhythms, my habits of the day, and really gave it my all in this project. And then when it was time, when I thought we should be getting the results now, nothing happened. Maybe you can identify with this. But, when that happens, sometimes, and this happened with me, doubt creeps in. Am I doing the right thing? Did I hear God right? Is this the right time for this project or what I'm putting myself into? And often when doubt grows, it leads us to a place where we judge God and we say, is He good? Did He call me to do this? Is this the season that He wants me to do this? And we ask questions about our expectation. And even then, those daily rituals, those habits, those good things in our lives, they become a burden. And we look for results, we can't find them, and suddenly be like, what's going on here? What happens then is that I start asking the question about expectation. Do I have the wrong expectations? Are my expectations too high? Or should I lower them? Should I have any? And, I want to remind you that it's normal for us to desire results. We were created to do something and see a result. We want to see the fruit of our hands. We have this longing to say, man, I'm busy with stuff. I'm doing things and it's going to bear fruit. It's going to deliver something that's good. Now, those are really good human qualities. It's what God placed in us. What sometimes happens is that we miss something essential in these desires, wanting to see the fruit, and then eventually asking the wrong questions or doubting God's character. I believe that happens because we miss something that's very important on this journey. There's something very important I want you to know, and it's important for this conversation, but for life. God is eternal. He lives, He exists outside of time. So God is never hurried, and He's never in a hurry. He's never late, and He's never early. He's always on time because He's not bound by time the way we are. Now, we have this desire for speed. We live in a society that's instant this and instant that, from coffee to food to whatever you know the story. So we desire speed. We want to see the results, and the world even demands it. You have to have a quicker connection. You have to have speed. But God's not hurried. God's never hurried. He's committed to growing deep roots in us. This tension often leads us to wanting to take control, wanting to take matters into our own hands. And that very often leads to subpar results. What we might think would be good, God might have a different idea. He's always got better. Whatever we can imagine, dream of, think, God says He's got more for us. So we often want to rush things, forgetting that God's not held back by time. And as I mentioned earlier, then often we end up judging God's character, trusting in what we will see rather than the unseen, which is his nature. You see, there's a difference between mushrooms and oak trees. Mushrooms grows in a day and they go off, even if you look after them well, in a few days. Oak trees, on the other side, they take years to grow and they can withstand the most incredible storms and punishment. God wants depth. He's committed to growing us so that we not like mushrooms, but that we are like oaks of righteousness. This doesn't just happen in a church service. This is a process that he leads us through every day of our lives. And if you've got a calling in a specific vocation, or you're working on a specific project, that's where God wants to work. That's where God wants to build in us deep roots, strong branches that can carry the weight of the goodness that he wants to give us. So what should we do? Firstly, shift your perspective from results or production to growth, from getting results to abiding in him. Shift your perspective, change the way, renew your mind, change the way you think from depending on external results to a journey. It's not about that destination, getting the result. It's about the journey of growth that we are on with God. There's this beautiful story in Mark chapter 4. Jesus speaks about a farmer who sows and then he goes to sleep. He doesn't worry about the seed germinating, growing. He just goes to bed. He just sleeps. What he does is he trusts. In Psalm 127, we learn that God gives to his children, to his beloved, even while they're sleeping, what they need. That's a beautiful promise. So if we can shift our perspective from focusing on the externals, seeing the result, to understanding it's a journey, it's a growth process, we end up in a place where we can trust God's nature. You see, God works when we sleep because he loves us. And God is the God of the unseen. Romans 4 tells us that he calls those things that are not as if they are. So in other words, when we don't see, we can trust that God is still working. He wants to work with us, yes, but also in us and through us and for us. Even when we don't see the results when we think we should see them. Trusting is like waiting on God. And it's in that process of waiting that God actually builds those strong, deep roots, that he builds us up so that we can carry the weight of all the good, all the spiritual blessings, all the favor that he wants to land on us. The result of learning to trust him, of waiting on him, will be that suddenly we find a stability inside of us that's astounding. We'll find that we can have a peace that even though the storms and the pressures of life are real and in our face, we don't lose a stable, steady peace inside of us. We'll find that we start to put our trust and our faith not in the seen, the results of the work of my hands, but in the unseen, beautiful and glorious character of God. The delays we see will suddenly not be something that throws us off the tracks, but it will be something that we see as a pause, where God says, I need to grow you a little bit more. I need to show you a little bit more about who I am. And those delays then become a season of joy, not a frustration. And we will learn to fall into a rhythm of grace, where we learn to live from the unseen for God. And even though the seen world that we live in might not be exactly the way we want it, the rhythms of grace will actually keep us going and will bring joy into our life and will fuel those good habits that we have. Remember, this will take time. It won't be a quick fix. It won't happen overnight, because God works in seasons, and He is more committed to growing us on the inside, the roots, the broad branches, than just giving us the results we think we need. This requires us to constantly go back to the source of life. And those habits that we spoke of in the previous video, if we establish them in our lives, they will really help to reconnect with the source when those thoughts of doubt or wondering about God's nature, the pain of not seeing the results come to us, then those habits will help us to actually return our focus to the source, to Jesus. Jesus wants to build us into the fullness of what we can be. And He's busy doing it. He's busy building His church. If you want to learn more about those habits, go and check out our previous video where we talk about how good those rhythms can be in our lives. So next time, when you feel the weight of the weight, don't pull back. Shift your thinking. Ask God to show you the unseen, His nature. And in that time of waiting, know that God wants to grow you so that you can actually receive even more than you imagine. Remember, your better tomorrow starts today.